Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to 2 Point Campus. Now today we're going to be tackling the fourth challenge mode, the L-Bomb, which is a Valentine's Day challenge set in Upper Etching. It's by far the most difficult challenge mode so far as it involves very careful placement of items, rooms and managing student relationships. We have 2 years to generate 500 relationship points for the gold level reward. And as far as I can tell, you gain 1 point from every level 1 romantic relationship. Then those points increase as the romantic relationships level up. However, if your student drops out or fails the year, you lose the relationship points that they've generated because those relationships collapse. We also have regular inspections from Cupid, who's going to be rewarding us with love bombs based on 2 interchangeable examinations, student happiness and average exam grade. Rewards are given in tiers, and based on my experience, you get 1 bomb for a poor inspection, 3 for an average one, 5 for good, and on a couple of occasions, I received 7 bombs for outstanding results. Basically, you've got to really keep your students happy and those exam grades up. And I tried a number of configurations to get things right, and I'm going to explain a little bit more as we go through. And what you're going to see today is like a couple of little snippets of footage as I was discovering and testing things out, and then I'm going to talk you through the final build which got me my gold standard results. The bombs do have a small radius, so we're going to need to pool our students in various choke points to maximise their efficacy, without creating too much of a pile of students, because issues with pathing can then occur when they all get bunched up, and that prevents students from carrying out animations that are related to relationship-based goals, and that slows things down immensely. So I started with some quite small corridors, as you can see, and that took a lot of... that was quite difficult because it meant students were getting bunched up in these little choke points and it wasn't working. So I did end up having to expand my corridors and make sure that there was a little bit more space for students to maneuver around. The targets are bronze level, 250 relationship points, silver requiring 350, and gold 500. So obviously what you want to do in that first year is try and get that bronze goal, which can be quite difficult. You've got limited students, they're all focusing quite heavily on building up their grades, and you want to make sure that you hit the ground running and you use the money that you've got wisely, because once again, we can't take out loans, we can't add new courses, and it's very difficult to generate money outside of having something like Orb Club, which would then directly impact the happiness of your students. And if you don't have enough money to improve that happiness, you can get yourself into a little bit of a hole. So you're seeing here a lot of the stuff that we're doing to try and get this sort of thing going. And I did a lot of this playthrough on stream, so you can see my first 2 attempts if you go and find the video on demand for that. And that's kind of me trying to work out a few different things. And I played around with different plots to see what would work. Obviously, some of the larger plots here in Upper Etching, they cost a lot more, especially if you get the buildings as well. There is a smaller plot, which is the one I started on, which was much cheaper than the rest of them, but didn't give a lot of space. The other important thing to note is when Cupid spawns in, he spawns right in the middle of the map, which is close to 2 plots that cost about $60,000 and $55,000, I think. And you can get that, which means you can probably get Cupid through your campus a lot quicker, but it comes at a cost of having to spend a lot of your starting finances to actually unlock those plots. Eventually, you'll see the plot that I used for my maximized kind of playthrough of it, where I hit over 500 relationship points. And the final thing is we have a new medical issue to deal with, which is called Snogwarts. Now, Snogwarts comes about from too many romantic interactions in a short period of time, and it can spread like wildfire. It has a negative effect on your students' happiness, which will then directly impact Cupid's assessment of your students' happiness if enough people contract it and it starts becoming an issue on your campus. So you need to get a medical facility down as quickly as possible. Now, I found doing that in the second year was okay, as long as I'd hit 250 romantic relationship points by the end of my first, which was more difficult than I can remember. 233 was my first attempt, which got me very close to the 500. Obviously, you've got more students in your second year, so the relationships will grow a little bit quicker. But you've got to remember that there's kind of like a perfect storm where things can really go to hell. And if you don't get your bomb placement right, too many students are unhappy, too many students are failing and trying to go to the library to improve their grades. It becomes very, very difficult. But let's talk through my award-winning final attempt. I think is about number 28 or 30 maybe. It took me a long time to do this one. So this plot is the cheapest. We've taken it without a building, and we're going to do a little bit of terrain plotting. So I'm going to just put this in a different grass texture, apart from the one with the, the nice lines in there. We're going to mark out a little bit of an area here that I'm going to leave blank. And this is going to be the area where our outdoor relationship items go. We're then going to build a building backing into that, and we're going to develop that building as our campus grows. So we want to make it as small as possible first, because what we don't want is students gathering in like empty areas. We need to try and funnel them into these small locations so that we can have the most effective spread of our love bombs. You're going to hear the word love bombs a lot in this episode. Anyway, our first task are to put in a gym and 2 lecture theatres and then hire our counter-cultural studies teachers. I'm just going to shave the ends off this building as well, because I'd like to have like a nice outdoor path all the way around, just in case in the early part of this we're probably not going to be putting toilets in, so people will actually go outside and do their business on the grass outside. And what I want to make sure is that they don't get stuck doing these various activities outside of the campus. One of the things that I've noticed when playing the game throughout the career mode is every now and then a student will just get stuck. Now, I think you can, save and quit and come back in and it fixes itself, but I have had countless students failing a year because they've gotten stuck mid-animation doing something, or like trying to pass from A to B, and it's not worked out for them. And that's been a huge issue. And another thing I really do need to point out, which, I think, we could do with reporting to the devs of the game in this task in particular, what we get is an indication of the amount of love bombs that we are going to receive based on Cupid's assessments of us. And they are indicative by the dialogue options that kind of come up when he leaves the campus. And what we normally get is, this isn't working out. Here's a pity bomb, and you get 1 bomb. Then it's something like, not as like big as my taste, but here's 3 love bombs for you. Then I had a really good time, and I'd like to do this again. We then get 5 love bombs and the 7 love bombs, which you do get. I've had it twice. I don't think I've got it for a long time, where he's like, wow, I really like what you've done with the place. Here's 7 love bombs. They don't always fall. So sometimes I've gotten like an indication of 3 and I've only been able to find 2. And I think that might be to do with the plot of land. On the other kind of plots that are larger, there's a lot more space for them to fall. And I liken this to if you've played the Space Academy expansion where the space rocks fall. So the more space that you have unlocked on a campus, the more area is available for those rocks to fall. And I think what's happening is there's just some issues somewhere with the pathing of those things as they fall down, which, has actually led to a couple of failed attempts that I think I may have been able to get through if I had access to those love bombs. So we're trying to prepare for that as well by making sure that we can maximize the spread of those bombs when we actually get to drop them. So we've put in our 2 lecture theatres, our gym, and our dormitory. Now, this is going to be our first port of call for our new students. They all gather and they go to the wardrobes in the dormitory, and then we're going to put 1 of each love item, or as many of the love items as we can, in this dormitory to boost the attractiveness of those rooms. Now, bear in mind, this is still not going to be a very attractive room. We do have beds for up to 40 students in this room, but it's still small and it's not well decorated. We need to manage our finances as well. We have to be aware that we are going to have a significant outlay on our countercultural studies tutors. You'll also notice I've put in a record rug, and that's because I'm trying to preempt the students' demands for the year. Over the course of these levels, I've been noticing that we always get demands for certain items within those rooms, and I'd like to fulfill them in advance. It's another reason why I've built a much larger than required gym, because at some point I'm going to be requested to put in the springboard, the big jumping bench, and that takes up quite a lot of space. So I do have a little bit of excess cash here because of it being a smaller plot, and we're going to put in a bathroom and a shower room here as well. Now, my bathrooms and shower rooms, I'm going to put 2 doors in them, giving students more accessibility to those locations, because another thing I had noticed is a lot of students kind of get bunched up in doorways when it comes to getting into places, and that can sometimes cause those errors where students are permanently stuck in place. So coming in with our showers here, we're then going to put another door on the opposite side here. And you can see here we've created a much smaller corridor, and that's going to be a really nice place for us to get our first spread of the bombs. Next thing I'm going to do is put in some kind of decorative items as well as the food vending machines and things like that. So just kind of having a think about what I'm going to do, and I think the best port of call first is to just extend this building a little bit, because I'm going to be able to put in another couple of rooms with the spare cash that I've got. You will notice with our lecture theatres, we have the seating areas kind of backing into each other, and that's really important. What I'm then going to do is add in my vending machines right where those seating areas join to each other. You'll also notice right now I'm putting in my student union, and that's so I can get those first romance dating tables put in as well. They're a level 1 to 2 romance item. So we've got level 1 to 2 romance items indoors, and then we're going to put the love benches outdoors so we have those areas covered. We're not going to be getting a lot of the higher level romantic items coming in yet, because those relationships will not have had a chance to develop. You'll also notice that I'm trying to minimize the number of friendships that we have within the campus, because they don't count towards our relationships. So we're going to be going with only romantic relationship items. I had tried in previous playthroughs of this level to just put in as many friendship items as I could to try and progress the friendships and have them eventually turn into romances, but I don't actually think the game works like that. I think if they're locked into a friendship, that's all they're going to have. It's not going to suddenly swap to a romance. So, limiting the number of friendship items is going to limit the number of friendships and force them to go into those romantic relationships instead. I've put in a librarian for now, and they're just going to work in our student union. The student union is important, like I said, because of those tables, but also what I'm going to do is use my student union to bottleneck students who aren't in lessons. So here we are putting our vending machines in. Now what this is going to do is we're going to have queues at that vending machine while students are in those lectures, which means if we drop a love bomb right on the join of both of those lecture theatres and the vending machines, that's going to hit a large number of students. It'll hit students that are in lessons and queuing for vending machines. We're going to start our year and we're going to see where our students go, and Cupid, of course, will always give us one bomb to start off with. I think this is a really nice kind of setup for the beginning of this, and we just need to work out how we're going to develop it. We're just waiting for our students to come in, so while I'm on it, I'm going to continue talking about stuff. You'll notice we've not put any outdoor items in yet, and that's because students will mainly funnel into the interior of the campus, and the rooms that they're going to go to begin with are most likely the dormitory and the student union. What I'm going to do is, with the student union, is while students are in classes, coming towards the end, like that second part of the month or the second part of that class, we will schedule in a student union party in the same time slot. What that's going to then do is have any students who are just wandering around the campus, they're going to be kind of inspired to go to the student union for that party, which means we're going to be able to cover our dormitories, our student union, our gym, and our lecture theatres. So if we get 3 love bombs, basically we'll be able to hit the 2 lecture theatres that are backing out onto each other and anyone queuing up for food. We'll hit the student union where there's going to be a party, and then right in the join between the gym and the dormitory, we'll be able to hit a 3rd love bomb. So as long as we're doing well with those inspections and getting 3 love bombs at a time for this early phase, we're going to be able to really develop things. We're coming up to, well, we are at the beginning of September, which means we've got a bit of money to put in these outdoor love benches. And like I've already mentioned, all we need is the level 1 and 2 romances right now. You'll also notice I have put in a love trumpet, and I'm going to put in a Cupid statue here as well, because they're going to help us get towards the next levels. This Cupid statue is a level 2 to 3 romance, so anyone who progresses that far is going to be able to get to the 3rd level very quickly. Another item I need to mention that I'm going to be using, you will have seen it in earlier portions of this video, is the Claw at Love machine. It's level 2 to 4 relationships, which means they're going to be key in progressing any relationships that get to level 2 onto those final 2 to 4 levels. That came as a free kind of gift to the community for the large number of relationship points that were generated when this challenge first launched. So I could say it's a little bit of a cheese because it was an item that was unlocked after the event and we're now going to be using it to progress in the event. But given the lack of level 1 to 2 and then like further developing relationship items, I think that's an okay thing to do. Anyway, we don't have any money left, but we have got our first romantic relationship at the end of September. We are coming up to the end of that month now, and Cupid has dropped some love bombs. So we are going to drop one right there on the border of the lecture theatres, backing out onto those vending machines. We're then going to grab this second one and drop it in the dormitory, where we've got a few students gathered, and then the last one is going in the student union. That means we should have complete coverage for every single student on the campus, and already romantic relationships have jumped up to 4. We're then going to put in our library, because that's now been requested by students who have just come out of the lecture theatre and now have assignments to do. We'll pop down 3 study cubicles, and then we're going to need to potentially hire another assistant, because I want to move my current library assistant over there out of the student union, and Michael Wielder, who is he's got he's got the happy perk basically, and that will increase students' happiness who are in that student union. I want to make sure that my assistants are doing the things that they are qualified to do. So now we're putting in these Claw at Love vending machines. I can only afford one of them, but you can already see people going to use them. Our relationships are starting to develop. We've got this nice little break in between lessons where people are going to be socializing and doing those things. One important thing to note with the love bombs is don't drop them when students are in classes. When they're in classes, they're not going to get the effect because it'll probably wear off by the time that class is finished. So what I've taken to doing is, as a class is about to end, I will drop a love bomb. Then in that free time, they have the effect of the love bomb on them for whatever free time activities they're doing. Just as much as setting up your campus is a key thing, making sure that you time those love bombs in the right locations and moments is what's going to really help you achieve the victories in this level. So Cupid's coming for another visit. We've rolled over to the end to another month, and we can put in some more of those arcade machines. You can see our students as well will help out by cleaning up. One of them has just swept the floor, so a lot of the students in here are like keen to like muck in and help out. Some of them will repair machines within the campus as well, but we are going to need to get some janitors just to help that process along, because what we need to do is stop students doing animations like that and force them in their free time to develop relationships. Every time I get a request now for friendship-based items like the one you've just seen there, the 2-player arcade table, we are rejecting them. There's no friendship items allowed here. Of course, some things I've had to put in as they're a requirement for the room, like in the student union, that 4-person table is a must-have in the room, so we can't actually do without that. Otherwise, I would just have romance tables in there instead. Coming in, and now we're going to decorate our campus because that will directly affect the happiness of our students, which has dropped quite a little bit. And we have Cupid on a visit, so that might drop us down to like a pity bomb or something. We can't afford any more items, so we're just going to continue our simulation. We have 77 romantic relationships, and the students have a whole month of free time right now. So if Cupid drops us some more bombs, we can target specific areas once again to be able to get that done. So we only got a pity bomb there. Now, we really need to be careful where we place this. You can see a lot of the students don't have the effect on them anymore, but right there, right where we have the vending machine queues and students using showers, toilets, and a little bit into the student union as well, we drop that bomb and instantly we see the benefit of it. 81 romantic relationships. Now, students are queuing up. Soon as they finish that, they're going to go straight to that claw machine and start doing that as well. We'll put a student union party on in January, which covers the entirety of the time that students are going to be in a lecture theatre there, and then we're going to do the same between February and March. If we get a little bit more money in, we'll then do May and then the June and July crossover period as well. And that will give us some wonderful little gatherings of students so that we can get the maximum efficiency from those love bombs. So you can see the kind of ideas that are going here. We also want to make sure that if we are going to be using the student union, it is on the same side of our campus as the lecture theatres and the toilets and the showers. The dorms aren't used a lot. The library isn't used a lot, and the gym isn't used a lot. So all of those rooms that we don't see a lot of foot traffic in, we want to keep on the right-hand side of our campus. And the left-hand side is where we're going to target all of our bombs to maximise how effective they are. We've got that student union party going on now, and we have people in lectures and in the gym. So this is perfect. If we get a good review here now from Cupid, we're going to be able to have a huge amount of coverage here. He's currently 50% through this assessment, and now he's finished and is about to leave. As long as he leaves and drops those packages for us before January finishes, we'll be able to really carefully place those bombs and get a huge amount of coverage for them. You can see there's no students wandering the campus right now. We've got 5 bombs to drop, which is really good. We could maybe even save a couple of them for a time when we might need them a little bit more. So we're going to wait for the end of January to start coming around, where we then have that little gap of free time in the first quarter, the first half of February. We can then start dropping stuff. So we're going to drop one in the student union right there. We're then going to drop a second one on that lecture theatre, which should cover the vending machines as well, and another in the gym, which covers a little bit of the dormitory. And that's exactly what we want. Straight away, relationships developing up to 115 now, and then we'll start getting more points. There we go, 125. So that's 2 students who have just got to level 4 in their relationship, which gives us, I think, 5 points for each student. That's why we got a 10-point boost to the romantic relationships. So my guess is it works quite similarly to the amount of love bombs we get dropped based on Cupid's assessments. So you get 1 point for a level 1 relationship. Then you'll get maybe 3, I guess, for a level 2. And then I guess maybe 6 or something for a level 3. And then your level 4, you get a full quota of 10. Anyway, we've got some requests for a textbook cubicle, and we have a nice little bit of cash built up. Now, the one thing I do need to do is make sure that I'm constantly pooling money so that I can afford to have student union parties and at the end of this year expand the campus. So we're just going to put in things that I know are going to be requested while we've got the money: countercultural studies bookcases and the internet history bookcase, which is another one that does come up. You can see we're doing very well, though. We are over the halfway mark in our year, but we also have developed 178 romantic relationships. Now, the target is to get to around the 250 mark by the end of this year. Another good thing to note is those student union parties will increase the happiness of your students. So coming into the end of this section, where we have a month and a half of free time for students, this is going to be a point where we can really hit things and get a very good kind of number of students in romantic relationships. So luckily we saved 2 of our love bombs from the last drop, because Cupid's only given us 3 here, but it looks like I can only see 2. So unless there's another one hidden somewhere, that is one of the issues that I was explaining to you earlier on in the video. I can only see 4 here, 2 of them from our last one, 2 that are new. So we have scheduled a cheeky little party in April here, and that's just so I can once again pool my students, because you can see we've got quite a few in the library there, then a few in the corridors, and then in and around our student union. That's us going up to 206 relationships. A park bench has been requested. We're flat out rejecting it because it's just a friendship item. And again, we have a neon guitar request, which I did forget about, but it's another one of those decorative items that students really want to see. We have a couple of requests there for private tuition, but we're not going to do that right now. I'm quite happy that the average grade is around about a B, so we can deal with that. We start dropping our love bombs, 1 in the library, 1 in the student union. We can probably fit another one in and around those vending machines, and Cupid is already visiting us again. I'm just going to leave the 2 there for now, though, because I think what we've got there is pretty good. And you can see again, relationships developing further, 226 we're on, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get to 250 by the end of this year. My record, I think, for the end of year 1 was, I think, 233. And on that run, I finished with 486 relationship points. I was 14 short of completing it with the 500. But there we go, 246 now, and we've got 2 little breaks in between classes where students can develop relationships. Now, of course, not all students will be at those lectures or in the gym, so there's a chance that while lectures and stuff are happening, students can develop relationships further, but you'll get the best coverage and use out of those bombs while all of your students on the campus have free time. Obviously, assessments will impact that, so they could be going to the library, and what you could do is completely remove the library and just let students kind of hope that they can do well on the courses, because the issue would be if students fail the courses, you lose all of those points that are associated with them. I did try towards the end of the actual 2-year period, I tried removing all of my rooms and just taking a risk with having that last class not happening at all, and that would give the students more of a chance to just kind of develop relationships in that last 2-month period, but that didn't work. So here we are again, dropping more love bombs in various locations, the gym, the student union, and again in between those 2 lecture theatres that we've got, and that once again gives us really good coverage for the entire campus. Everyone getting hit by a love bomb, and then they go off, do their relationships in this little break in between, and hopefully that takes us up over the 250. Now you can see in the gym right there, we've got a student at risk of failing, and they have chosen to go and develop a romantic relationship outside in the love garden actually. So if they fail the course, that's going to be an absolute waste because we're going to lose those relationship points. So we do need to hope that they go and do some private studying or something afterwards. I haven't played around actually at all with having private tuition in because I see that as too much of a time sink for when students are actually not working in lectures and stuff. So I left that out completely. That might actually be of help, but who knows? It's also another teacher to hire or like more kind of pressure on your staff who are already in there. We're going to book a final event in a horror film. Actually, I don't think I'm going to bother. We're not going to give them that because I'd rather they just develop relationships in that last half month. We will put a student union party in though, just before the end of that course that's going on. Another thing I did try was using the book club to boost the academic grades of our students. It worked, but again, having book club activities was just giving us another kind of location to drive students towards, which was useful in some circumstances, but when you had a queue of people looking to sign up for book club, or when they were locked within animations doing stuff for the book club itself, we were losing out on time that could be spent just developing relationships. We want the core entertainment to be the development of relationships within all of this free time. Obviously, we can't stop students using the library, so that's going to happen. But any students not using the library, or if the library's at capacity, they're going to look for other things to do. And we want to make sure that all they are doing is building relationships. And you can see we're dropping more bombs here. Once they go off, we'll have that end of month period just in between the new year. We've got Cupid on the way as well to assess our students' assessment scores. They're at a B at the moment on average, so that's really good. That should get us another 5 bombs to start off the new year. And then, of course, we're going to develop again, expanding the campus. We've got a nice amount of money in the bank, around about $67,000, which is going to hold us in really good stead moving forward. I think we need about $50,000 to duplicate all of the rooms that are required for the new year. We need another gym, 2 more lecture theatres, and then to hire another 2 countercultural studies teachers. So that's us at the end of the year. We were at 255, but we just dropped down to 250. That's our target hit. Really good. 1 student's obviously failed, and we are going to upgrade our course now, which allows us to take on more students, and then we can develop our campus a little bit. One thing to note is here, I'm going to be building on places where hearts have dropped. That's okay, they do drop elsewhere, and you can see they all kind of stack up at the back of the campus there, which is really, really good as well. We now know we have 5 love bombs ready to detonate when our new year starts. And what's important is, if you're going to be doing it this method, Just make sure don't drop those bombs immediately when the new year starts, because you've got to wait for those new students to actually arrive on campus. So here we go. We're just in between our library. We've put down a new dormitory and duplicated our gym, and then we're going to duplicate both of those lecture theatres so that they are once again backing out onto each other. And in this area down here, we're going to leave it blank for now, but again, we'll shorten the size of the room here, the larger building, and down there is probably where we'll put some medical officers, and that's pretty much all we're going to build here. We could put in staff rooms, we could put in extra bits and pieces, but what I am actually going to do is, I have noticed we have some medical issues, so instead of duplicating our lecture theatre, we're putting in our medical office temporarily. We're going to get a staff member to work in that as soon as possible, and then we're going to cure all of the medical issues that we have at the moment, sell the medical office, put back the lecture theatre, and then once we've got a bit more money in, we'll have some permanent medical officers. So just before we start, I'm going to wait for this medical thing to come and solve all of the issues, and then we'll dive straight back in. Okay, so as you can see, we've started our new year. We are missing a lecture theatre. That's because rather than immediately putting in the new lecture theatre, I decided that I would duplicate a lot of the romance items and decorate the place a little bit. We're also going to be planning in some events once we've got a bit more money in. As soon as September starts, we'll pause, we'll duplicate the lecture theatre, and everything will be hunky-dory and working as intended. So you can see we've still got our 5 love bombs, and we're going to start peppering these around so that we can get some good coverage. Immediately, I'm seeing a nice space right here. We're going to put it in between the walls of the toilet and the showers, and that should give coverage to the student union. As you've just seen, it's exploded there. That gives coverage with the student union and those vending machines outside it, and we're already at 261 relationships. Now, around here is probably where we'll drop this next one, because students are queuing up to use the wardrobes in that dormitory. We also have another dormitory down there that we could target as well, but I'm just going to wait a little bit as we approach our first classes in September, and then we'll detonate some of these bombs. You can see they're starting to really stack up there, moving around and going in between their sessions and stuff. So we'll drop one there in the dormitory now, we'll pause it, and then we'll duplicate our lecture theatre because we've got just about enough cash to actually put that in place. With 6,000 left over, that gives us the ability to put in a couple of vending machines, well, one Meat Wizard vending machine as requested. We'll put it in the student union because that means to access that vending machine, the students are going to have to actually go into that room, which again gives us another choke point in a room that will be heavily used by students for other activities. I had decided to limit the number of activities and stuff that students can do in the corridors, so that the only thing that actually pulls them away to do anything is romance items like the claw machine and the love trumpets. That's pretty much everything you'll see in there, apart from food dispensers, which again back out onto the lecture theatre like we had. Now, I could duplicate those food items and put them again where the new lecture theatres are, but I decided not to bother with that and just have one set of food and drinks dispensaries so that our students can actually really queue up in that area. Obviously, that might not be the best thing to do because it might be better to have them spread out so that the students can get the food quicker, but I'm going to take that risk this time. There were demands for a hot dog kiosk. That's something that regularly happens, and a previous run through I did, and that was the run that got me to 486, but again, I don't know if it was a good idea to spread out the choke points so much. So we're once again putting in our student union parties. I'm allowing them to have a little horror film here as well because I just think that'll increase the happiness. And as they're going to be in lecture theatres as well, I can wait until that horror film's just about finished and then drop a bomb or two in those areas. We are kind of looking at our like events timetable here as well, just so that we can make sure we're doing everything correctly. And I guess the further advice I can give now is this is where you need to start putting in your medical officers. Early on in year 2 is probably the best time to do it, and just put a small one in for now, because what you'll then get is people queuing up at that medical office. So if that happens, make sure you put down a couple of romance items as well, because while they're queuing, they'll look for things to do in and around that vicinity, which will allow you to develop some further relationships if the students are feeling inclined. Sometimes they'll just want to wait and get the medical attention that they need, but now all we're really going to be spending our money in is duplicating the medical officers and putting on our student union parties. That's going to be the key to things now. We just make sure that we get those parties scheduled in as much as possible, so that at the end of those lessons we've got people gathered in the student union coming out of those lessons, and making sure that we're always aiming to get 3 to 5 love bombs from Cupid, because students should be happy with the amount of parties that are coming up, and their grades should be pretty good too. So we've got 5 love bombs there. We've got 2 that have dropped at the back of the campus here, and 1 in the dorm and another one in the corridor, but it looks like our 5th one hasn't shown up. As you can see from the overhead view here, there's very clearly only 4 love bombs being dropped there, which means 1 of the 5 that we were due to receive has not yet arrived and probably never will. So that's one of the kind of little bugs I've found with using these smaller map areas. It seems like they're obviously trying to land somewhere in the campus, but if they can't land in like a open space, they just don't land at all. And that could well be because they're landing somewhere like where a bed has been placed, or where a lecture theatre kind of stand has been placed, and the interference with other objects within the environment is preventing it from actually landing at all. Obviously, it's always random, and it could just be that it's randomly being selected to drop on an item that has been placed and you can't actually see it or reach it. You can pause as they're floating down and try and kind of pinpoint where the shadow is, and you can grab them before they've even hit the ground, which I did try doing a couple of times when I was desperately needing to set one off, like if Cupid had kind of left just as a class was about to finish and I needed to quickly grab one. You can see there the jukebox has been requested. We will put that in the student union, but we'll reject the hot dog kiosk. Again, having another item in the student union is going to drive people into there to interact with it. You can see people queuing up for our medical office, so we can drop a bomb there, and that should really help things go. We're going to pause now because we're coming to the end of our classes. Drop that love bomb in, then we'll drop one in between the lecture theatres there and the student union, another one at the lecture theatres and the food kiosks, and then we could potentially put another one in the the library or the gym there, but I'm just going to leave them for now so that we've got one spare for any other activities that we might need to do. We're going to reject more requests for friendship-based items. That was the dance floor. We don't want that. I've put the jukebox and the meat wizard machine in because they're single use, so one student will use them and then maybe others will form a queue. What we don't want is to have students crowded up trying to do things that only force like basic friendship level sort of stuff. We want to continue to force romantic relationships. We're coming up to December now, and we're just shy of the 350 romantic relationship target for the silver objective, and it's all looking pretty good. We're just going to take a little bit of a pause here and then have a little look at our events. We can now plan in the remaining student union parties, so one at the end of January, one after the first week of March. That was the second week of March. Well, the second half of March. I'm going to have to change that. Then we'll drop another one at the second half of May, and another one in on the first half of July, which means just before the students have free time, there will always be a party in the student union, which forces any students who aren't in lectures in the gyms or the lecture theatres, they will then be forced to go into the student union because they'll want to go for the party. They'll not be going to the library or anything, and those that do, we'll just leave them out. I think our library capacity is about 12, so we don't actually need to worry about the 12 students that might go to the library. If we do, of course, have enough love bombs remaining, we'll drop one in the library, because once they finish what they're doing, they'll be able to come out. You can see here we've got a nice gaggle of people here that have all just been hit by a love bomb, and immediately next to them there's a lot of items to boost romantic interaction. So you can see there, 357, we have now hit the silver objective, and we're 135 now away from the gold objective. There's lots of relationships popping off here, which is really good, and I've just, of course, I forgot to swap around this timetabled event here. That was at the end of March, so we'll pop that into the first half of March, and that gets it nice and on par with the lessons that are finishing at the end of those periods. And we've got another 5 love bombs coming in there, and this time they've filled up pretty nicely. So we're just going to take a little bit of a pause, and once we get to like that second half of January, and we'll be able to set where they're going to go off. You can see while there's lessons on, as I mentioned before, students are still developing romantic relationships because they aren't in class, which is really good because it means we can just leave this idling, and then once we're ready to drop those bombs, we'll be in a very good position to continue developing relationships. We're at 402 now, so there's 98 to go to hit that gold objective, and I think we are definitely on course to do it this time. So yeah, I mean, like I said, there's more methods to do this, there's other ways to do it, but this so far has been my most efficient run at this. I mean, hitting 250 at the end of the first year is a dream, because you got to think of it in that you'll have more students in your second year, as well as the students that are carrying on from year one. You'll probably get another 40 to 45 students based on how you've managed to level up your campus. There was one point where I actually managed to get the course leveled up a second time, and unfortunately though, I'd spent so much of my time trying to force that to get up there and get a larger student intake, I didn't end up completing the task. So you should only need to level up your campus once, your course once, my apologies, and once that's done, you'll definitely have enough students to get the relationships that you need. Gigs were another thing I'd kind of planned in the previous runs. We managed to get to a level where we could bring in Jasmine Odyssey, which obviously gives a 50% boost to the happiness of your students. Unfortunately, the gigs just take place far too long, and like nothing really goes on in those gigs. It's not like the students kind of break away from watching the action on stage to develop relationships, so it's just wasted time again, and you really have to manage the time very well in these challenge modes. So again, request for a water cooler there, which we're rejecting because it is a friendship item only, and we just continue hoping to develop these romantic relationships. Outbreak of Snogwarts, of course, we've got money, so we could actually add in a third medical ward, but I'm going to try and, yep, there we go, we've got some medics ready to go in. We'll bring in, maybe Desmond Junk would be, no, we'll just take one, it doesn't really matter. The traits shouldn't be too much of an issue. We'll have them only working in medical offices, and then we'll add another little bit of a room expansion on here and put in a third medical office. That's going to give a nice bit of space for our students to queue up. They'll also continue to be right next to romantic based items, and we will hopefully get them cured of those snogwarts as soon as possible. So 3 love bombs coming in this time. Not ideal, but you know, the student happiness level has dropped a little bit. Maybe we could keep that up by just having consistent student union parties, but again, that will stop students developing relationships, and with 69 relationships left to achieve, I don't think it's a good idea to mess with our current working pattern, because we know it's going well. We're just queuing up, getting ready to drop another bomb here, and we're going to get this one right on the edge of our lecture theatres. There we go. Once that detonates, we'll have another one set to go off right in our usual spot, and then a third and final one, I think we'll put right in the middle of the student union. We might as well try and target that entire strip. One going off there, and then the other 2. That gives us a nice bit of coverage. And already you can see there's relationships developing quite naturally without the need for the love bombs. So we're at 441 relationship points. Everything looking really good in this run. I'm quite happy with it. It just goes to show that if you just have a nice, like a few decorative items, just make sure you're not putting any other friendship items in. Don't put more than you need in. You just want to make sure that you're pulling those students in that area, and they can finally, here we can put our vaulting course in the gym. There we go. But yeah, I'm really confident that this is going to be the run that wins it. We've got 49 relationships left to achieve, and as long as every student graduates, I mean, it looks like we don't have anyone at risk of failing. Relationships continue to develop, and down here we're just going to make sure that we put in a couple more relationship items right next to these medical labs, because as students are queuing, they're going to be looking for things to do, so we want to try and push them to use those romance items and boost their romantic interactions with other students. The hot dog kiosk, again, we'll reject. We're at 466, and again, if we get some more love bombs in, Cupid's coming in there. Now, this is a problem. You can see he's walking in very slowly at the top there, and that's because he spawns, like I mentioned earlier on in the video, right in the center. So if you took the $60,000 plot, you could probably get more visits from Cupid due to the fact that it's time-based when he shows up. It's not like he has a specific time of the year when he comes in every time. So it'll be random. It'll like a timer will probably start once he's left, and that will tick down until he's next due to arrive. Of course, while he's doing the inspection, the longer that inspection takes, the less visits in the future you're going to have from him. So if you are putting a load of items in the way to prevent him pathing to the rooms that he's looking to inspect, and then your students are getting all blocked up and preventing him actually leaving, that's all gonna like impact the amount of time you have and the amount of visits you get from Cupid. So it's bad enough that he spawns in the middle of the map and then has to walk to our campus very slowly. You then don't want to give him enough of like a hard time maneuvering through your facility, because it really like impacts that amount of time that he's going to take, because he then does the animation where he fires his bow into the air and then floats off into the sky. There's then a little bit of a wait before he finally drops those bombs down, and then the timer will probably start for his next visit. Of course, you can let your love bombs build throughout the year. Like I've said, I've not really used all of them every single time I've got them, which is really good just in case your happiness levels take a hit or your grades drop and you risk getting like just the 1 or even like the 3, because getting a good spread of these love bombs is always more important than anything else. We've got 26 points to go. I'm pretty sure in these next 2 gaps we're going to get this. And of course, at this point, you could actually start deleting some rooms, but I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe if you're going to delete anything, delete the library to stop students going in there and doing assignments. Of course, you risk them failing the course, so just make sure that you've got your students well trained up and they are at no risk of dropping to an F grade and being kicked off the campus, because you will, like I said, lose those relationship points. But everything's looking pretty good. I'm really confident that we're going to do it this time. We have probably going to have enough time for one more visit from Cupid. We're at 479. Relationships are building 489. Come on, guys. There's another one, 499. One more. I'm just looking for the hearts. Okay, we've got an outbreak of Snogwarts. There we go, 500. 503, excellent. Right, those students have just won it for us. Now we just need to make sure that everybody survives and fully graduates or makes it onto the next year of the course, and then we'll have completed it. If we can just eke out a few more relationships in this time, that would be really good. Obviously not much is going to happen right now, and I don't think Cupid is going to finish his visit by the time the level finishes. We might get lucky though if he only inspects some very close by rooms, but it doesn't look like it. Let's just have a look at our grades. We've got a 1 on a D. That's a bad grade for Penny Mills there. That could drop. But that's just the risk we'll have to take. We'll have to just make sure and pray that Penny passes the year. Or the ones that are kind of around about that 46% pass mark, we need to make sure that they continue to improve. But 513 romantic relationships. The car booth, we'll reject that. And yeah, this is it. All we can do is hope. If Cupid, yeah, he's fired his bow, he's off. And we're going to get some more love bombs here. 5. Yeah, I think this should do it. So we'll just pause. We'll tactically drop these down because we are at the end of a class. So people are coming out. The party is finishing. So it's now just free time until the year finishes. Let's just make sure that we're fitting these last few bombs in. We'll drop another one there. And I think that's all we've got. Yeah, right. Okay, this is it. Moment of truth. Half a month to go. The last of the bombs have dropped. Oh, come on, guys. Do it for me. I don't know how many attempts this has taken, but it's been a long, long, long ride. Just give me one more. One more romantic relationship should do it. 528. Yep, I think that puts us clear. Amazing. And there we go. Time is up. 523, one person failed. We've done it. Well, guys, that's the L-bomb. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you when we come back to 2 Point Campus. Thank you. Bye-bye.